That is 35K running into that building. Runs 6 different buildings out of that one building. Okay? That's serious power. That's, I didn't get to tell my family goodbye power. That's, I didn't blow my arm off power, I blew my body apart power. Okay, I do arc flash training for a reason. To make sure that people understand that a penny, okay, just take a penny, and an arc flash, standard arc flash in a panel, will expand in 1/10 of a second to the size of a Volkswagen when it explodes. The heat and the fire that comes off that is 3 times hotter than the sun. It will cook you. Everybody likes these shirts, right? Under Armour, 511, Tactical, whatever, these, right? This will burn right to you. We wear these, why? They're comfortable, they breathe, they wick the sweat off of us, and you can fold them up and throw them in a bag and travel with them, and you can just do this and they're not wrinkled, right? That's why we wear them. But when you're working on a job or you're reaching a live panel and that arc flashes on you, everybody hear me in the back? This is going to be a permanent fixture of your body. I don't usually use a microphone because I talk too damn loud anyways. So, my name's Kevin Dandridge. I am an OSHA expert. I work a lot with public adjusters, a lot with law firms and appraisers. My main focus, my only focus, is safety for your claims. I know a lot of people in here, who in here right now actually adds safety to their claims in one fashion or another, okay? Do you do it for residential or just commercial? Residential. Residential and commercial. Remember, OSHA construction standard is construction standard. It's not industrial standard. It is not residential standard. It is not commercial standard. It is construction standard. You work in, how many people here work around waterways? That doesn't mean just like Florida, but work around lakes, rivers, that kind of stuff. Okay, so now you fall into the maritime standards. I teach maritime as well. I do OSHA safety protocols, expert witness work. Starting to get into the umpire side of it. I'm getting asked to be umpire a lot because of my standards of how I look at things. I look at your claim of what needs to actually be added. Okay, you tell me what your scope is. I tell you how to do it safely. Okay, if you tell me it's getting siding, it's getting roof, it's getting brickwork, I look at just those things. If I look through your pictures and see other things, I will add those to it. I see asbestos in pictures. I'm an asbestos instructor. I'm a lead instructor. I'm an arc flash instructor. So I look at all of those things. NFPA 70E, that's arc flash. That's working around live electrical. How many people here work and do jobs around or after a storm, after a hurricane? Okay. While you're on that job, how many times has the power company gone around and turned power back on and let you know that they did it? Never. How many times have you put your hands in a panel that was dead when you opened it up the first time and found out it's not dead the next time? You know, I would be surprised how many times guys do that. I'm sorry, when I say guys, I'm being gender neutral. I'm covering everybody. All right? What I'm saying is nobody goes around and says, hey, by the way, that panel's live. You've got the dead front off of it. You're looking at it. How many times have you looked in a live panel and had water inside that panel? Okay? Not only is that an arc flash issue, not only can that kill you because you touch that water and it's got live power in it, but if it's on a coastal way, it's more than likely seawater. Now it's salt. Now it's corrosion. Now the EMT or the piping that electrical conduit runs, or the electrical runs through that conduit, has got to be pulled out because it's corroded. The wire inside it's corroded. So now you're going to have a live arc when they turn that power back on. How many times do you know of on this that you have a generator fired up next door, somebody's got a gen rack running? Do you realize that there's power probably coming into your feed that you're in at your house? Because it runs backwards. Power just runs in a direction, right? When they turn that live power back on, that gen rack has a sensor that says, oh, power's coming in, and it turns it off. But it doesn't mean that it's still running the house next door. It can run through that same phasing, because remember, everything goes to a block, a live block. It gets shut off by the breaker. So if the breaker's not shut off, it can be running your house. I knew a guy that literally ran during a storm because his neighbor had a massive gen rack running, and his house, it was able to keep his refrigerator and his AC running. And he didn't have power to his house. So, what I'm here to talk to you about is safety in general. How are you looking at a claim when you show up at it? How are you assessing what needs to go into that claim? Okay, this is going to be an open forum. I'm going to want hands to come up, and I want questions asked so we can answer them. So let's look at this. When you're walking a claim, are you looking at the claim, or are you looking at how it will be dismantled and redone safely? Because everybody in here walks up and looks at a claim and says, okay, I had a fire, I had a storm, I had a hailstorm that tore up the roof. You look at what needs to be done, right? But do you look at the safety part of it? What is going to have to be added to that claim for safety? Not only to keep the American worker safe, that's what OSHA does, but to keep the residents of that house, to keep the business owner and the people that come to that business safe. His employees, you're doing a work on a warehouse roof, all his employees got to be kept safe, or you're going to have business interruption because you're going to shut that place down because nobody's allowed in there while you're working, right? So, here's a fire. Did this in Mississippi, January of this year. It's a school. I didn't realize it was going to be so lit in here. It's kind of hard to see that picture. But looking at this is the two different hallways of this school. The school was built in 1962. It's a CMU walls, interior and exterior. It's got joists that run across the top, steel frame rafters. Then it's got a concrete deck and then bid mod on top. All right? And looking at this picture, safely, what's the first thing that you're going to want to do? The minute you walk up on that job, just to walk it the first time, what would you have to do? Respirators. Hard hats, standard PPE. We all put PPE in, we know that. Glasses, gloves, hard hats. Have to wear work boots. Doesn't have to be a steel toe, has to be a reinforced toe. Hiking boots don't count. I will say I used to let hiking boots on job sites, but they don't count. All right, so now you got your PPE and you got a respirator because you got carcinogens in here. Now, age of the building. What's one thing that's going to pop up in your head because just of the age of that building? Asbestos, lead paint. Again, are you going to want to breathe that in? Are you going to want to walk through it, jump in your car and drive home? Take that home to your kids. Are you taking booties on? Are you putting booties on to walk the job? No, but that's a cost. Now I'm going to put guys in here to do this work. What is it I'm going to look for in this job to have guys do this work? What's the first thing I'm going to look for to do dismantling of this work? Mind you, this school is full of all the desks, all the books, whatever's left from the burn. All that's got to come out, right? Well, what am I going to look at first before I send somebody in that building, other than what we just talked about, respirators, Tyvek suits, that kind of stuff? What else am I looking at? Ceiling falling in. Electrical. Is there electrical on the building? We're actually going to talk about that here in a couple slides. I'm looking at the structural part of this building. It's a CMU building, okay? The CMU got so hot it spalled. If you look at the way those trusses are attached, they're attached to the sides of the CMU and the top. All right? Am I going to put somebody on that roof and start working my way down? No. I'm going to bring in a boom lift and I'm going to start tearing stuff off from the top. Or I'm going to bring in a chicken claw. You know what that is? It's a 3 or 4 prong that comes down and rips. You usually see them in junkyards. And start ripping the roof off of that and making it structurally sound before I'll even let anybody in that building. The fun part is, I went out there to walk this building after everybody had gone through it. Okay, insurance adjuster, public adjuster, appraiser, even the attorney walked this one. Okay, the school boards walked it, fire marshals walked it. I walked in there and I called them up and I said, when are you guys coming back out? Oh, we're all getting together next week to come back out on this one. I said, well, I'm not coming back to Mississippi for that. But when you do, don't go through the door that you guys got pried open and unlocked. And they said, why? I said, because the roof above it just collapsed. And they said, what do you mean it just collapsed? Is that on the ground? I said, no, it fell an inch. When I slammed that door, it fell an inch. They're like, oh, well, how do we walk it? I said, you don't. You're not going in it. When I wrote the protocol for this claim, I wrote the protocol 3 different ways. They want to save the CMU. It's not salvageable. It's done. But the insurance wants to save it. I said, fine, chicken claw everything off the top of it. Then you can send crews inside to clean up the inside. And then you can go through and seal everything and pressure wash or ice blast all that CMU to get all the crap off of it. Or you can do, you can come in from the sides and work your way through the main structure and let the other parts will collapse and barricade as you go. Or you can do the smartest thing in the world. Bring a damn bulldozer in here and level the damn thing to the ground and start over. It's your cheapest option. Okay? Do you think my public adjuster was happy that I put a cheaper option on it? Honestly, anybody? You know what he told me? Works for me. Done. Claim's going to finish that much faster. Level it, pull it up, and redo it. Hell, the damn thing's from 1960, what did I say, 2? In backwoods, Mississippi. Okay, we're not talking quality built when it was built, let alone now. They don't care. The insurance company said, yes, absolutely, level it. Okay, did the public adjuster make that extra $700,000? No, but he didn't care. It was settled and it's done. Okay, and it's the safest way to actually do this job. So now that we've looked at that, let's look at this. There's my electrical on the outside of that building. Is it live or is it dead? Now mind you, I know you're not standing there, but is it live or is it dead?
Yeah, no, just assume it's live.
All guns are loaded.
All guns are loaded. Thank you very much. When I called that morning and I said, hey, I noticed all the power's coming in into weatherheads and stuff. Is it alive or dead in that building? So the building's been disconnected. Everything's dead around there. Everything is dead around there. When I walked around behind the building, right next to it is a transformer. And that transformer is out there going pop, 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 pop. It's not dead. It was turned off at one time. Okay? The local power company did come out and shut that off, but somebody went and turned it back on. Okay? If power is not locked out and tagged out, and I mean locks on it, shutting it down, and verified every single day that it's not live, you have to assume it's live. Okay? That is 35K running into that building. Runs 6 different buildings out of that one building. Okay? That's serious power. That's, I didn't get to tell my family goodbye power. That's, I didn't blow my arm off power, I blew my body apart power. Okay, I do arc flash training for a reason. To make sure that people understand that a penny, okay, just take a penny, and an arc flash, standard arc flash in a panel, will expand in 1/10 of a second to the size of a Volkswagen when it explodes. The heat and the fire that comes off that is 3 times hotter than the sun. It will cook you. Everybody likes these shirts, right? Under Armour, 511, tactical, whatever, these, right? This will burn right to you. We wear these, why? They're comfortable, they breathe, they wick the sweat off of us, and you can fold them up and throw them in a bag and travel with them, and you can just do this and they're not wrinkled, right? That's why we wear them. But when you're working on a job or you're reaching a live panel and it arc flashes on you, this is going to be a permanent fixture of your body if you survive. Okay, the vests, I won't let guys wear vests around them when they're working around live electrical. Why? It'll cook it. I've got a guy that's got permanent marks from a vest and a fall protection harness from an arc flash. I've known him for years, and he's that way because of an arc flash. Arc flash is $1,500 minimum to get put on a job site. 9 times out of 10, it has to be done by the electrical company of the area, not a certified electrician, but the electrical company has to come and do it. They will charge you $1,500 minimum to come out and put on arc flash blankets around all the live power to make sure it doesn't get touched by a forklift, a rod, a staff, a concrete leveler, anything, tractor, nothing. That power right there, this is what amazes me. At that power level, that power will jump 10 feet off its line. In the humidity, in rain, in a thunderstorm, it will jump 10 feet off that line. That is where the kids play in a schoolyard. This is how much they pay attention when the electric company puts power in an area. All that should have been run underground. Should have never been around where those kids are. Could jump 10 feet. So you got to think about that. But that's $1,500 at minimum. And some places like PP&E will charge you a monthly charge. So if you've got arc flash blankets or arc flash protection on a job, they'll charge you $1,500 to put it on. They'll charge you a monthly fee that it sits out there, and then they'll charge you another $1,500 to take it off. Okay? You got to call your power companies and make sure what are they charging to do arc flash, and put that in your estimate. Think about that. That right there is damn near $7 grand by the time it's all done for a 3-month job. You don't count for that $7 grand that's coming out of somebody's pocket. It's usually your client. All right, structural damage. Are you watching your footing in the locations from below? You walk into a building, right? It's got structural damage. This is a fire on the 2nd floor of an apartment complex, this apartment complex. We walked in, they said, yeah, the fire mainly was upstairs, let's go upstairs and walk it. I said, I absolutely not going upstairs. They said, why, do you see that flooring and those trusses? They said, yeah. I said, do you see this is 380 pounds of man? I go through shit pretty quick, all right? I'm not doing it. I won't do it. I will refuse to walk a job. I've been called out to jobs. I'm based out of Arizona, okay? I've been called out to jobs all over the country and walked in and literally had to go, I ain't going in there. I didn't bring respirators. You didn't tell me that I needed respirators. That's structurally damaged. I'm not walking in there. I don't get on roofs for a reason, okay? I don't bounce, all right? I'm not young anymore. When I was a framer in my 20s, I could fall off roofs all day. I'm 51. We ain't doing it. Electrical panels on the side of that building. Are they live or are they dead? Have to assume, right, that they're live. Half of those are alive and half of those are dead, those meters, depending on where they're running. Here's the fun part. You see how easy that door is open next to it? Those are the mains. They're not locked up. Okay? Crackhead decides to blow a fuse and he walks out there and goes, oh, that's it. Flip. Today it was dead. Tomorrow you're dead. It works that easy. It works that quick. Looking at this structural here, okay? You see all the holes, right? That's the fire department came through, poked holes to put their hoses, correct? But when walking through there, I realized that fire, because of those holes, traveled up and down the walls. Okay, so now what they didn't catch is the structural damage on the interior of the walls. So walking up and down that stairway actually became a liability, because what's holding structurally on that stair is not straight to the ground, it's gone to the wall. That wall collapses, we go down, right? So paying attention to how you're looking at that, not just for your own safety when you're walking the job, but making sure that you're adding that into your claim, okay? There's a way that building's got to be tore apart now, and it's off scaffolding, and it's off of boom lifts, and it's off scissor lifts, and working from the top down. I mean, there's stages. It's not just send in a crew of 30 guys that just show up and rip it all out, throw it in bags, throw it in a trash can. It doesn't always work that way. You have to look at what you're getting yourself into. And remember this, in today's litigious society, you're the person that's writing this up of everything that needs to be done, and if you miss something, it can come back to you, okay? Don't hear of many public adjusters getting sued, but I'm telling you, that time is coming. Making sure that you are covering your bases is priority. Making sure that you bring in structural engineers, bring in safety experts like myself to write up the way it is supposed to be done, the way it's safely supposed to be done, the way it's supposed to be done for the structure part of it is imperative, okay? We are experts. They pay for expert reports. Safety reports are just like engineer reports. They pay for the engineer reports, they'll pay for the safety reports. The plus side is they'll bring an engineer out to fight your engineer report. They don't bring another safety guy out. Why? They don't have one, okay? They don't have one and they can't use one, but yet they'll never put it in writing that safety is not important, that safety is not required. They will not put it in writing. You know why? Because they're the reason that safety exists. Give you the example. Insurance companies, right? Do they write insurance for that structure? Do they write it for the employees that work in that structure? Do they write insurance policies for construction companies? Because you have to have insurance as a construction company, right? They're the same reason I have a job. Example. 10 years ago, I went to work for a company, the last company I actually ever worked for before I went on my own. It's a company that builds nothing but banking financial institutions. They got a $5 million fine from the EPA and OSHA because they transported lead paint in San Diego over a waterway. They went to a dump to dump it off. In Arizona, where they're based out of, you can do that. You can take lead paint and asbestos and everything to the dump. And you just tell them, look, I got cans of lead paint. And they say, all right, go put it in that corner. And once a month, somebody comes and picks it up and disposes of it. Can't do that in California over a waterway. That's a massive fine. Well, while they were transporting the paint, the crew that was demoing this old Chase bank, doing work inside of it, opened up a wall and found asbestos. So they took plastic and covered up the asbestos. They had not been trained how to do it. They weren't certified to do it. And when the EPA, the dump called the EPA called OSHA, they went back to that Chase bank, followed them back, found footprints in the parking lot of asbestos. And they started writing fines. Okay, $5 million in fines. And part of their settlement agreement was they had to hire a safety director that had all these qualifications. And guess who it was? Me. Guess the insurance company. Travelers Insurance. Travelers Insurance is the insurance company for that company that I worked for. The insurance company said, you have to have all these qualifications. That's what we've settled with the EPA, da-da-da-da-da. They own a mitigation company as well. They own a drywall company, mitigation company, and the construction company, and a computer company. Okay, so I did safety for all of them. In the mitigation company, they showed up to do a job, and Travelers Insurance started fighting them. We don't need all this safety, we don't need this, we don't need that, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So I end up going into a hearing. And they said, well, what makes you think? What gives you the certification, the qualification to think that we owe for the safety? I said, you. They said, what do you mean? I said, you're the reason I have a job. You fined them 3 years ago, or they got fined $5 million 3 years ago, and as their insurance company, you told them that you had to have somebody that had all these qualifications, and they hired me. So here I am fighting it back. And they went, okay. Conversation was over. That's how most of my court cases end up, because they can't argue it. They're not going to argue it. They'll argue with you, but they won't argue with me. They put me in deposition. About halfway through a deposition, they go, we're done, because they can't argue it. All right, so what do you see here? How would you approach that? Anybody? Huh? Not very close, no. How would you assess that damage-wise? That's a tree that went down. The tree obviously is out of the picture. It's gone by now. But a tree went down, took the front of that building off. How do you assess that? Huh? Drone. I bring a drone in. Take a look at it. How do I get in there? Okay, how can I get in there? Can I even get into the top side? Okay, I had this question last night talking about trees on a building. They hadn't seen this picture. This was just a conversation. But the trusses, how many of those trusses need to be replaced? Every one of them. Why? It's a system. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 trusses to that wall, correct? Those obviously we know got to be replaced, plus the hips. They got to be replaced. That's what the tree hit. That's automatic. But everything else is shock loaded. Okay, the panels that hold that on, the OSB, whatever, that's however the roofing system, that all moved. Shock loaded those trusses, collapsed them, pulled them from their clips, pulled them from their attachment points. That whole roof's got to be replaced. But I will tell you, the insurance company only wants to replace those 8 trusses plus the hip. Yes, sir.
You've got an attic hit by wind, and maybe not every single truss plate, but let's say 85% of them have been detached. I mean,
They're all gone.
roof off.
Look, here's the thing. So I don't know if anybody in here knows Chris Lackey. He's a good friend of mine. He's a public adjuster here in Texas. He sent me pictures from a windstorm here in Texas where the wind had pushed so much that every truss plate where the truss came into the peak and then it had its first up line had been pulled apart. Literally, I mean, just ripped it right out of the plate. Do you see the whole building's racked?
Yeah.
So that building's got to come down.
What are you going in for?
Exactly. What are you going in for? But let's just say it wasn't. Let's say that it was still safe enough to go inside once all that was removed off. Let's just say, this one's obviously not. But let's say, and I want to use your scissor lift. Can you legally exit a scissor lift onto a different platform? No. Do you know on a scissor lift you actually have to be tied off? Okay. Now, companies, including your rental companies for your scissor lifts, will tell you, no, you don't have to be tied off because it falls under OSHA's scaffolding rule, because it has a rail. But where OSHA will get you is the 1910 standard, not the construction standard, the 1910 standard, the general duty clause. The general duty clause states you will follow all manufacturer recommendations on any tool or equipment that you use. Okay? You open up in a scissor lift or a boom lift, has that little black box, right? The little paper box. Open that up, pull the manual out, and within the first 10 pages, it will say, while in this scissor lift or operations this scissor lift, you will be tied off. You look in the scissor lift, it has pictures, and it shows you where the tie-off points are. Usually it's a little guy standing like this, and it's got a thing down to here, and it's attached, right? Well, there's your standard. You cannot exit a scissor lift to a different level. Can you exit a boom lift to a different level? Can you exit a boom lift to a different level?
Done it all the time.
Done it all the time. Legally? So here's the legal aspect of it. If I can fly the boom lift over that level and step on to the level, not out to the level, but onto the level, over the level, yes, you can exit the boom lift. If you have somebody else in the boom lift, not only do you have to be tied off while you're doing it, and that is in the OSHA construction standard, you have to be tied off, but that person has to be tied off and running the controls while you step out. What does that mean for the guy that's in the boom lift working it? He can't get off. I see a lot of contractors, public adjusters and insurance adjusters that will use booms to get onto 2- and 3-story apartment complexes to walk the roof. And the minute they step out of that, all it takes is OSHA to drive by and see a boom in the air and 2 guys on the roof, both of them are popped. Okay? Asbestos, lead. This is a lightning strike in Atlanta. Okay? Mitigation company came in, and this is how they left it. All right, they opened up the wall where the strike was. No fire, just a strike. Okay, blew out the wall, blew out the framing. They opened it up and did a nice clean edge. So let's talk about this. When dealing with asbestos in a building, can I patch back to that? Can I put a piece of drywall up against that edge and patch back? You can't sand it, exactly. It makes it friable the minute you start sanding on it. Okay? They'll tell you all day, yeah, you can do that. You put a piece of drywall on there, tape, texture it, and off you go. But I can't sand it. So I can't do it. So here's the fun one on this one. Well, there's 2 fun ones, but talking about the drywall side of it, the plaster side of it, that material ran through every doorway. Okay, so every door frame was nailed onto plaster rock, drywall, well, that plaster rock. They didn't have the open framing, okay? And even if they had, when I pull the door off to do the drywall in bedroom 1, well, now I'm attached to the hall. Now I got to pull the doors off to do the hall. Now I'm attached to 2, 3, 4, the stairway, living room, because of this one little area done wrong, okay? Now I have to do the whole damn building. Got it? The other fun part was, that's the HVAC unit. When it had the lightning strike, the power stayed on. Okay? It hit the weatherhead, but the power still remained. The AC still ran. I'm sorry. When the lightning strike, it shut off the power, but they got the power back onto the building, turned the power back on while they were doing the mitigation work because it was Atlanta in the summer. They didn't close off this room. They didn't barricade it. They didn't plastic it. They didn't negative air it. So all that dust sucked through that AC unit, which didn't have a filter in it. That's the only soft duct is actually in that little closet. Everything else is hard duct. Okay? And it is old hard duct from like the 30s. So there's no cleaning it. Because of that duct work, all that plaster has to come out. So that lightning strike that was I think it was a $250,000 claim for the roof, the weather, the electrical, all that stuff, turned into a $900 and something thousand claim on a house that's only worth about $130 at the time. Okay? The insurance company lost their mind. They said, fine, we're going to just tear the house down and rebuild it. The client said, absolutely not. My grandfather built this house. You are not tearing this house down. And he won that. Just moved out of it and let it be. That house is still sitting just like that.
How do we get $930,000 worth of coverage on a $130,000 house?
I'm not here to question how. I'm here to tell you why. Pretty much. Again, I don't get too involved in the policy side of it. That's not my part. I just tell you how to do it safely. I will tell you, I've come up with a formula. You see that number, $8,000 for a 10 by 10 room. Okay? 10 by 10 room, you're going to charge $8,000. That's between your workers, your safety, your Tyvek suits, your negative air, the haul off, the trash cans, because remember, all that's got to go to a separate dump. It's got to go into a separate can. It's got to go into bags. It can't just be hauled out on a wheelbarrow and dumped into a trash can. Got all that safety. You're averaging about $8,000 per 10 by 10 room. 20 by 20 room only goes up to about $9,000. That's just the PPE. It doesn't take much more. But remember, every time you put a worker in a room in a Tyvek suit and a respirator, I'm not talking an N95, I'm talking an actual respirator, and his little booties and his tape that he puts on to seal this up and the gloves and all that stuff, and he goes, I gotta take a piss. Tears all that off, that all goes in the trash. How much are Tyvek suits right now? Huh? Try $42 a unit. You get it you can buy them by the case at a little cheaper. They're about $42 a unit right now. Okay, think about that. Right. I got this house. All right, I got this house here. This is a 1,500 square foot home, 1,800 square foot home. I'm going to put probably 10 guys in that house to do all the demo work for about a week. It'll take me about a week to demo it out right. Okay? They're going to wear at minimum 3 Tyvek suits. First one of the day, lunch, piss after lunch, right? And are they allowed to go out and smoke while they're in those suits? Nope. Can't smoke in a Tyvek suit. It's got asbestos on it. Why? You're just breathing in the asbestos, sucking it in even harder. Sure in hell ain't wearing the respirator while you're doing it. And if you are, you ain't smoking a cigarette. That's a Vietnam joke. So, all right. So again, getting into these costs, got to make sure you have these costs. Also, making sure that you're paying attention to your jurisdiction. All right, Colorado, asbestos. Colorado asbestos by law states that if a homeowner is doing a remodel job, that they can take their asbestos and throw it in their trash can. Okay, their drywall, their whatever, they can throw it in a trash can and it can be hauled off to the regular dump because it's just a mild remodel, right? A bathroom, a bedroom, or whatever, right? But as a GC, you have to send it to a certain job site, and you have to have a certain dumpster, and you have to have certain bags and certain labeling, and you have to get permitting to do it because you're doing mass work. Guess where the dump is in Colorado? How many dumps do they have in Colorado that you can actually take asbestos to? Because it changes, honestly, like every quarter, but on average, how many dumps do they have? One. You got it right. There's one. Now, sometimes you can take it to your local dump. They'll say, yeah, we've got an area that we've set up for it for this quarter, but there's only one dump. Okay, if you're working in Colorado, or excuse me, Denver, you're shipping to Colorado Springs. That's where the dump is. Okay, think about it. You're working almost on the Wyoming border. You got to ship it down. How much does that cost? How about lead? Where can you dump lead in Colorado? I'll tell you, it's called Utah. Arizona's the same way. The drywall company I do safety for, they do safety, they do lead-lined walls for x-ray rooms. The drywall that's lead-lined, all that scrap has to be shipped to Utah. The room itself will cost $60,000 to lead-lined drywall it, okay? 60 grand. It's not that expensive, really. How much it costs to ship all that trash to Utah? $78,000 to ship it to Utah. Now we found a little loophole that we can pull the lead off the scrap drywall and put it in a bin, and the company that makes that lead-lined drywall will come pick it up for free. And then I don't have to ship the drywall off the trash. Okay? That took me about 9 months of research to find that one. All right, here we go. Next. AC units. The cost of doing AC unit. This is down in Orange Beach. Okay, the parapet wall is high enough. We don't have to have fall protection unless we're working on that edge or over that edge. So fall protection is nice on this. We don't have to do it. But every one of those AC units has to come off that roof, and because of the access to the roof, guess how they come off? Crane. Guess how tall that building is? 25 stories. Okay? And I'm going to show you the ground here in a minute. This is not an easy crane. Okay? Lockout, tag out for every one of these. And here's the fun part. For some reason, half those units have gas running to them. Some are just electrical, some are gas and electrical. So not only do I got to lock out, tag out the electrical, I got to lock out, tag out the gas. And when I disconnect the gas and pull all the lines off the roof that are gas, I have to put it back on, recertify it, bring the city out, make sure it goes through gas testing, make sure it gets pressure tested, right? That's all costs. That's all permitting just to pull an AC unit off. All right? Proper disconnection and the removal. So those all are costs. So look at the ground. Really look at this ground, guys, okay? This is the flat driveway. This is a parking garage. This is another level of the parking garage. This drives up. This drives down. There's a pool. How am I getting to these buildings? Okay? These are two buildings, guys.
Is there a back door?
There's ladies in the room. I'm not making that joke. All right, but so we come from the side, right? We'll come from the side. Will we come from the side? Well, there's a pool in between. This resort has 5 pools, and it's on the water, for God's sake, okay? There's something in that water they don't want you in because they want you in the pool. So, but if you look at this, so here's the pool. Here's the end of that pool. There's the waterway where you pull in your boats to go play, right? Not only do you have working into the water, you have netting for stuff to fall off in that pool area. Try running nets between those two buildings. You can see the distance. Now you're dealing with EPA issues. Now you're dealing with wildlife conservation issues. Anything hits that waterway, it's your backside. Okay, so now we got to close everything up. Everything's got all that roofing. One second. All that roofing's got to be packed into trash bags and hauled out of there. How? By crane. Game and fish. Now you got to do FOD walks all day. This is laborers on the ground, walking around the building all day long, making sure there's no nails with magnets, picking up trash, picking up this, picking up that. Hell, that's a labor crew of 10 to 15 people a day. Got to account for it. Flotation devices. Not that you would survive the fall, but they want to be able to recover you. Okay, seriously, these poor bastards got to wear flotation devices because they're working over water. What was your question?
I think, over water is obvious. What proximity constitutes near water per safety?
The proximity near water depends on the element that you're looking at. Personnel, usually right over water. Because those pools are so up against the building, that would proximate the fall protection. Okay, if the pools are away, or like, hell, let's do the Hilton, let's do San Luis Resort. Okay, it's on a waterway, but nobody's going to fall in the water. Well, maybe the pool at the San Luis, it's pretty close. But can it be blown off the roof and the roof distance, the flight distance, I'm sorry, off that roof? The way this wind's blowing today, okay, coming in, obviously nothing's going in the ocean if it comes off, but is there a waterway back here? Is there a waterway close enough? And it doesn't have to be the ocean, doesn't have to be a big river. It could be a canal. It's a waterway. It's a lifeline. Ducks could nest back there. Geese can nest back there, and you don't want them using your insulation or your bid mod or anything that blew off the roof because that's not good for them, right? So that's how they look at that. So there's different areas to look at when it comes to proximity. What part of this are we looking at for proximity? Good question, though. Any questions on this? No. Good. All right. Downtown Glendale, Arizona. This is an antique building, original downtown antique building. Okay, we're talking 1880. All right, it was originally a hotel. Somebody hit the front area with a car, drunk, coming back from a Cardinals game. It was not me. But it actually, when it hit, because of the structure, it pulled the bricking apart by 1 inch gap up the brick. Okay, so we had to put in shoring on this one. And it's kind of hard to see because of these pictures and the lighting in here, but we put obviously fencing around it so nobody walks underneath it. It's shored. Okay? Fairly simple. But we have to pull all that brick apart. Pull it all apart, restructure it, put it all back up, right? To redo this building. The surroundings is what cost on this job. As you see in the one picture, there's a subway at the end of the corner there. It's got outside seating. Okay? On the other side, which is kind of hard to see in this picture, but this is an old German restaurant, and it is all outside seating, no inside seating. Silica. I got to pull all that brick down. I got to clean all that antique brick and put it back up. So all the scaffolding that has to run across the front of that whole building has to be wrapped in plastic. I have to run AC units in there because it is Arizona. Even in the winter it's hot. I got to run air filters, air scrubbers in there, negative air to pull all that silica out. I got to have changing rooms for my guys when they come down to change out of their Tyvek suits and all that stuff. Oh, and by the way, if this work gets done from about March to November, they have to take breaks every 25 to 30 minutes because it doesn't matter how much AC I'm pumping in there, it's still hot. And they're cooking. Which means new suits. No, because it was actually all block.
So there was no framing on the interior?
Well, there was framing on the interior for the second story and that kind of stuff, but it just popped it all off the flooring. But luckily the trusses ran, the floor trusses ran this way, not out. So when it pulled it away, it pulled some of it loose, but not enough to, if it would all run out to the front.
What I was getting at is in 1800s, they used balloon framing.
Correct.
So the ledger board would be right into that exterior wall.
To an exterior wall, but because of the way this building was built, it actually ran to the interior connecting walls. So because it had, that front entryway is actually a saloon gallery, so this part's actually kind of not really framed out. It's got some, but it's not a lot. It's really tall, open saloon style. So, questions? Oh, I thought I saw you guys raise your hand. Making fun of me. I got it. All right, but again, looking at this, structurally, it was safe enough to walk in. We walked in and went, oh yeah, we got an issue here. Call the shoring guy, let's get out of here, but we can keep walking the building. Not going on the second story till we put the shoring in, but I can at least start looking at the first floor. But because of the adjoining businesses, how much did that go up? That claim, I'm going to start to tell you right now, this claim alone is $600,000. It started out at $600,000, okay? Just to put it back together. How much did that claim go up in safety?
At a zero?
At a zero, pretty much. This claim went over $1 million. Just like that, just real quick on a safety report. And that was before we really got into the structural damage and everything. That was right off the bat. Okay, so looking at how you're looking at your claim and what you're adding to it is not just to add money to your pocket, it's to make sure they go home with their fingers and toes every day. It's to make sure that the people that walk around, this is an antique district, all antique shops. People are walking around here all day. The failure, they covered the sidewalk, but they didn't put a walkway where the parking spots are out there on the street. They should have made a walkway out there. A barricaded, jersey barricade walkway to let people walk safely. Do you think people just walked up and went, oh, it's not safe, let's go over here and let's cross the street? No, they walked out in the street and cars are whipping by them because it's Arizona and we drive over people. So, but there's...
When you say antique, you didn't have to determine any kind of historical permit?
Oh no, we got into that too. We got into the antique, because this is the St. Rose Hotel. So not only did we have to pull historical permits as well as the construction permits, as well as putting in a sprinkler system because they got hit for that one. Then we also had to have the Historical Society come out and approve everything that was being done, also while the work was being done, going, yeah, it doesn't look old enough. And you think I'm kidding on that one. That mortar doesn't look right. It's too clean. They wouldn't have done that back then. Oh, okay, well, plaque. How's that? Oh, okay, that works. Stupidest thing I've ever seen, but that's how they do it. Yes, ma'am.
So I
It is.
And it is a cost of doing business, I understand that, but if you take it off the estimate, and this later on goes to litigation, and they're asking, wait a minute, you originally had this on there, why did you take it off?
Great question. I get this question all the time. It's a great question. If you didn't hear her question, is basically how do you combat them saying it's cost of doing business and you take it out of the claim and then something comes back and bites you in the backside,
We don't take that as a claim.
right? Hold on, I'm going to answer this. So, is it a cost of doing business? You're damn right it is. Buying nails is the cost of doing business, but you pay for that when I put a bid in. Buying the wood, buying the concrete, buying the hard hats, all that is cost of doing business. Well, your hard hats, you don't have to buy a new hard hat for every job. Your guys wear them all the time. This job's 3 months. I guarantee I'm buying hard hats at least once for every one of my morons. And I say that because one of those every day is going to leave it in his girlfriend's car. He's going to accidentally leave it at home. Man, I don't know what happened, but it got drill holes put on it on Saturday night. I woke up Sunday and it had holes in it. Because you got drunk and went, I need ventilation. These are all excuses I've actually heard, okay? Same with safety glasses, all that, okay? So you're going to have to buy new hard hats. Can I take a hard hat from you and give it to you? Why? Can I wipe it down? Breeze it? No. Dermatitis. It's an OSHA law. I can't take his sweaty hard hat and hand it to him. Okay? Now, I will do it to an independent adjuster. Here, you can use this one. Okay? But no, by law, I can't do that. So every time I buy a hard hat at $16 to $20 a pop, I got to be paid for it. You can put it as a rental charge, just like we do fall protection and Xactimate. We finally got that put in. But that Xactimate charge is $8.32 for fall protection, but it doesn't cover the connection point. It doesn't cover the landline. It only covers the harness. Read the white paper on it. They don't cover everything. I know the guy that put it in. I had him put it in for that reason, so I can raise it. Okay? Combating that and saying it is a cost of doing the business, it is. Keeping guys' fingers and toes on their bodies is cost of doing business. Hiring a safety director to walk that job is a cost of doing business. Having a safety manager on a big job full-time is a cost of doing business. Do you know that every construction job, whether it's a small residential roofing job all the way up to a rebuilding, to build a whole new hotel, is required by law, by OSHA, federal law, to have a safety plan for that job? You have to have a safety plan for every job. And it has to be written by somebody who knows what the hell they're doing and can stamp it. Okay? She can't just write it up unless she takes my classes. Okay, OSHA 30 gives you the right to be a safety manager. Okay, taking an OSHA 30 means you can become a safety manager, but you have to have a director that you answer to. That's the beginning level. Okay? To get into the director part, you're looking at OSHA 500, you're looking at 6 years verified that you've been doing safety as a safety manager underneath somebody, and you have to have somebody sign off on it saying you can even take the class. Okay, so getting that 500 is not easy. Trust me, I've been doing it for a long time. It was hard to get. When they say it's part of ordinance and law, oh, it's a law, okay. It's not ordinance and law, it's just a law. I have to pull a permit, that's not ordinance and law, that's just the law that I got to pull a permit to do this job. Federal OSHA safety is a law. Can you go to prison for not following OSHA? Yep. Can you go to prison for telling somebody to do something wrong, safety-wise? Yep. Every protocol I write, I take a chance on going to prison. You know that, right? Every time I write a protocol, I take a chance on going to prison. If I write something wrong in there, I can go to court. I can go to prison for it. Making sure that they understand it's not ordinance and law. Ordinance and law means there was a fire and that door got affected, and because the city says now it has to have self-lockers, if there's a fire and those doors open up and lock open to get people out. Ordinance, huh? Sprinklers, that's ordinance and law. Okay, I now have to put sprinklers in. It's ordinance and law. Ordinance law will cover that door, from the cost of that door to the new magnet door, but I have to do that one and those two as well, and it covers those for full cost. That's what ordinance and law is for. It's not for safety.
What about when they say about the fall protection and all that, that's included in the O&P?
It's not part of O&P.
They say that.
Oh, I know they say it. It's a cost of doing business, no different than trash bags. They pay for trash bags. I throw them out. I throw harnesses out after probably 3 roofs. They're not good anymore. Okay? That's why we put a rental fee on them. And at a certain point, they go, I'll just buy you a new harness. Okay, because it's cheaper. Fine, I'm going to need 3 harnesses per guy on that job because this is a 6-month job. It's still cheaper than paying that rate every day. Trust me. But when it comes back to them saying it's the cost of doing business, it's part of O&P, it is. Why do you, well, so deposition I had last year, the attorney kept bringing up, well, every contractor has to follow OSHA, right? Yes. They know they have to follow OSHA, right? Yeah. It's the law. They know they have to follow all these safety. Then why the hell are we doing a specific safety protocol for it? Why are you adding cost? Well, because one, the law says you have to have a safety job site record for it, okay, a protocol for it. 2, I'll give you this. Everybody knows you got to wear a seatbelt. Everybody knows you're not allowed to drink and drive. Everybody knows that you're supposed to follow the speed limit. Right. Well, why do we have cops? Why do I have police officers out there then? To enforce the law. Ding, ding, ding. That's why we have a safety director on this job site. To enforce the law. Okay? Just because you've been doing construction for 30 years and you're only missing one finger doesn't mean you did it right for 30 years. There's obviously one year you fucked that up. Excuse me. I'm from the field. That comes out once in a while. Right? Did I answer your question? No.
Real quick for a question.
Go ahead.
You know, you've got cost of doing business, that's true. But you can get what's called a white sheet from Exactly.
Yep.
And it'll tell you specific what's included. If it's not included in that white sheet, then it's not considered part of the cost of doing business. Hard hats are not included in that white sheet.
None of it is.
And the other theory with that, because the insurance company will say, well, you get 10, you know, they'll only pay 10% overhead and 10% profit. But you know what they call a contractor that works on 10 and 10?
Not a contractor anymore. Yeah, bankrupt.
So I always put 50 and 50 in. But you can get that, you can get a white sheet that'll tell you all that
Oh, no,
stuff.
I have white sheets.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe I'm misunderstanding your question because I want to answer it right.
The argument with insurance carriers, and I know because when I was an IA, that was my argument against PAs if you're adding OSHA standards because the insurance company tells you we don't pay for that. That's the cost of doing business. So now that I'm on the other side of it and I know it needs to be in there because I've talked to you before about it. And that's the biggest argument we have is, well, we don't owe for that. That's the contractor's expense, so we're not paying for that. But yet we're having to put it into every estimate. We don't want to take it off because if it goes to litigation and the attorney's like, well, you know it's OSHA standards, why did you take it off? Then we're getting fined for that. So how do you get the carrier to pay for those expenses?
Okay. Now I understand. Now I understand. So what I do, there's multiple ways to work around this. One, getting the subcontractors that you have gotten bids from to break their bids down for labor, material, equipment, and safety. Okay? This bid, most of them will say, I don't add the safety into it because we get out there and it starts adding more and I add more guys and it adds more cost. So we add that as a cost. Some contractors will say, yep, we're going to do netting and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. When you get a protocol from me, you get costs and you get OSHA verbiage to add to your line items. But it also has a statement on there that says, if, like, I put scaffolding on it, okay, you're going to need this much scaffolding, it's going to run you about this much money. But you have a scaffolding bid, you can take that line item out of my bid, out of my cost that I've added. There's a line item that says, if you've got something that proves that they're going to cover this or this or this in safety, sky tracks, boom lifts, whatever, you can take those line items out because we don't want to double charge. Not ever do we want to double charge. To argue the point is being able to say, look, they'll say, well, I got a contractor who will do this for $100,000, right? Well, I want to see his full breakdown. And I want to see what safety he's doing and how much he's charging for that safety in his bid. Because most of their bids come as a bulk bid.
Yeah.
Okay? They won't break it down because they know the safety's not in there. Having your bids broke down that way and having safety put in or a line, you can even tell your roofer, hey, don't put safety in it. Just put a line in there that says, safety's an added cost for this job. Okay? That way, you can argue that point. You can also say the roofer said that safety on this job is going to cost $15,000, and you can look at my bid and say, okay, well, he's got $15,000. Kevin's bid is $40,000 for this area of safety, but in this he didn't add the waterway, he didn't add the netting for the interior of the warehouse, and he didn't add all this. All he's got is hard hats and harnesses. And then you can take that out of my line, you know, those hard hats and those harnesses out, but he didn't put the nets, and he didn't put this, and he didn't put that, and he didn't put this. So that still needs to be done to do this job safely. You can argue it that way. There's no quick answer to that. It is a constant changing, because it depends on how they come at you is how we need to answer that. And again, you can always call me and say, hey, they're saying this, what should I do? And I'll say, well, did you put this, did you put that? And I'll tell you how to answer it. Yes, sir.
But we put it on like a residential roof. We've got a handful of OSHA claims that we have. So we're not taking bids, we're just strictly off exactmate. And every one we get, we exactmate that we're producing. And we send that in, and they immediately, they throw the OSHA requirements out immediately, saying that's the cost of doing business with the contractor.
But
Well, the same cost of doing business, what they tell me is that's included in the O and P, or the overhead profit. They have to have that anyway, and they know that that's included in, that's already included in.
I understand that. What I'm saying is, okay, back to your 10 and 10 on O and P, because that's, if you get O and P, and that's always my argument too. Well, it's part of O and P, Kevin. It's part of O and P. We're not paying that because it's part of O and P. But you didn't pay O and P on this claim. You marked it off. You said you're not giving them O and P. So obviously it's not part of it. Pay the damn bill. That's one way to argue that. They can't argue that one. When they tell you it's just the roofer that's doing the work, so it's not a multi-trade on that job, so we're not paying O and P, fine. Pay the safety. You didn't pay for O and P. Would have been cheaper for you to pay the O and P. But you already said you're not doing it. We're not allowing it now. Okay? Being able to say 10 and 10 on a roof, okay, what's your average roof claim cost? Now, mind you, I know it varies in this room, but what's a normal roof? Let's call a 2,000 square foot single story roof.
20 grand.
20 grand for a roof?
What it costs us or what we're getting?
What it costs to do the roof legally.
Legally?
The whole roof. Take the whole roof off, put a new roof on. No decking, just roof.
70, 80 grand.
70, 80 grand. Okay? I will tell you, in Arizona, just to remove roof tiles, stack them, and put new felt on, put the roof tiles down is $40,000. And that was before everything went up. Okay? I mean, you're not talking about replacing roof tiles. That's just restacking them and putting them back down. It doesn't matter the roof. It could be shingles, whatever. Shingles are more expensive because you're replacing all of them. Roof tiles, you get stacked. Okay? But it takes longer to do them because you got to work around the stack. You got to stress the roof, exactly. So, what's O and P on $80,000? That's your 10 and 10. 60? 16,000? 8,000, 8,000. 60. Do you think if I sat down and wrote you a full safety protocol on everything you're going to need to do is going to be covered under that 16,000?
It'll be under 8,000 because 8,000 is the overhead.
Okay, you think it's going to be under 8,000? I'll promise you it is not. I'll promise you it is not. Do you put plywood down on a driveway to make sure you don't crack the driveway or mar it, or grass?
Sure do.
Yeah, how much is plywood right now? $58 a sheet. I'm building a shop right now. I'm telling you, that's what it is. Yes, sir.
Yeah, we got that breakout session, get ready to start, but if you guys want to have any further discussion.
We can take it outside. Guys, thank you for coming in. Come see me if you need my card. More than happy to help you out.